are in listen-only mode.
Hello, welcome. Hope everyone's doing great today. I'm Chad Collette. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Ledgeview Partners, and we appreciate you carving out some time to join us today for our CRM for Manufacturing webinar and live product demonstration. I'd like to start by answering probably the most asked question during any webinar: is this webinar being recorded? And the answer is definitely yes. Within the next 24 hours, you'll get an email from me with a link to access this webinar on demand. So we encourage you to share this with others, your company, and your network. So our presentation today and demo will take up a lot of time. We got a lot of really good information to share with you, but we know there'll be questions along the way, and we want to make sure we address all those. So if you do have any questions, please enter those into the question box within your GoToWebinar control panel. If we can, we'll answer them during the webinar, either live, with a direct response back to you. Our CRM for Manufacturing account executive expert, Kevin Brown, will be monitoring those. Or if time permits, we'll have a small session at the end. Or if any of those fail, we will make sure to follow up with you offline to make sure that every single question does get addressed. To achieve the best audio quality, we have everybody in listen-only mode. So if you do have a question, the GoToWebinar question pane is the best way to do that. So before I introduce today's presenter and demo god, Chuck Hoffman, I do want to take a quick 30 seconds to tell you a little bit about Ledgeview Partners. At Ledgeview, we're a full-service CRM consulting partner. Everything from the design and the implementation, support, training, runs the whole gamut. We're a Microsoft partner, a Gold Customer Relationship Management, and we're also a Salesforce Cloud Alliance partner. Now, the product you're going to see today was built on Microsoft Dynamics CRM. We're headquartered out of Appleton, Wisconsin, but we cover the entire country and also multiple countries. All of our consultants and sales are CRM certified, and we do hold a special expertise within the manufacturing industry. And one of my favorite stats that really hold true is our 98% customer retention rate. It's not about a transaction with us, it's about a journey, and we really value the relationships that we build with all of the customers that we deal with, whether it's an implementation, a specific project, or a product. It's really special to all of us. I know we've got a lot of different people on the call today and with a lot of varying backgrounds, so I'm going to launch a quick poll. I just would like to find out from your end how familiar you are with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So if you're an expert, let us know. Maybe we'd like to ask you some questions. If you've seen it, you use it. Maybe you've seen a demo, just have a little bit of knowledge of it, go ahead and check that. And then, if you've never seen Microsoft Dynamics before in your life, just let that. So, take a moment to vote online right now. And it looks like we've got a strong percentage that have seen it or use it, which is really good. So we're just going to give it a few more minutes to go there. So good. We got about 72% of our users have seen it before, so that's great. So, I know he's itching to get going, and we want to get on with the show. So instead of listening to me, I want to introduce our presenter. So next up, I'm going to introduce Chuck Hoffman. Now, you may recognize this guy because I think he might be Martin Scorsese's doppelganger, but he's no stranger to Microsoft Dynamics CRM, and he's definitely no stranger to the manufacturing industry. Chuck Hoffman, a CRM application consultant with Ledgeview, was a key player in the creation of Ledgeview's newest turnkey product solution geared towards and specifically for the manufacturing industry. Now, I know he's itching to get in his director's chair and tell you more about the product, but really more importantly, show you what Ledgeview has created for the manufacturing industry. Chuck, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chad. Thanks. Appreciate the doppelganger there.
Take it away, Chuck.
All right. So in our demo today, we're going to cover quite a few areas in our manufacturing solution. And here are just a few of the things that we'll be talking about. And many of these are based on our experience in working with other manufacturing companies and in developing specific solutions for them. So we'll talk about things like how to handle samples and how do we record and look at sales calls and quotes and even things like expense reporting for some of our customers who don't have a solution of their own for that. And we'll talk about territory mapping, handling trials, and so forth. Many of the things that a typical manufacturing company needs to deal with on a day-to-day basis, but would also like to be able to have some visibility and access to that information within a CRM solution. All right, so with that, we'll get started with things. So again, thank you for joining us today. It's been fun working on this particular project here at Ledgeview, and collectively our team has a high level of experience in understanding what manufacturing companies look for in terms of a CRM solution. Most of our manufacturing customers' reasons for initially going ahead with a CRM project usually revolve around a few basics. If I'm a manufacturing company leader, for example, I'm probably looking for a cost-effective, robust solution that can grow with our business and hopefully provide me with information that can help drive some strategic decisions. If maybe I'm a sales manager, I want to know that my team can effectively manage opportunities to sell our products or maybe our services, to get a better flavor for what selling approaches are working, and maybe some visibility into indicators of what's working, or in some cases what isn't working. And finally, as a user, I want CRM to provide me with essential information to be successful on my job, to allow me to enter information in a somewhat standardized fashion and be straightforward and relatively easy to use. So using our experience and in consultation with customers, our team put together our initial rollout of CRM 2015 for manufacturing. To replicate the functionality that you're going to see today on a standalone basis would typically require a separate analysis, design, and implementation project be put in place. And these could easily require hundreds of hours of consultant work spread across several months of time. So hopefully you'll see that value in this particular solution in all of the benefits that you'll be able to achieve by going with CRM for manufacturing from Ledgeview. So let's get started. And as mentioned, please submit your questions as we go, and we'll stop periodically during the presentation to check in and see if any have been submitted. Since most of you have seen Dynamics CRM, or many of you have, we won't spend a lot of time discussing the many great out-of-the-box features that you'll find in Dynamics CRM. But if you would like more information on those basics, please let us know. Talk with Kevin, and we'll be happy to set up a demonstration on those basic features. For our demo today, we've put together a fictional organization that manufactures and sells things like craft beers, wines, and other types of beverages. So hopefully most of you can relate to the information that we're going to see today in our demo. Using CRM, and those of you who are familiar have probably seen dashboards before, but you can see key data displayed in dashboards, and our solution has a number of dashboards that we've built. For example, here I'm looking at opportunity revenue. I'm looking at an overview dashboard, so maybe a manager type view of things. And at a glance, I can see relevant information about opportunities, how I'm doing in my sales funnel by various stages and so forth as I work with opportunities. And then, again, as I look at these, maybe I'm seeing particularly good information or potentially some bad information that I want to drill down and see more details on. So in this case, for example, I see in my negotiation stage, my sales funnel, that I've got about $41,000 worth of opportunities in that stage. So maybe I want to learn a little more about that. So I can drill down and let's say I want to see at the account level what this might look like graphically. So I'll pull up a little graph, and in this case we have 3 accounts that are in that particular stage, in the negotiation stage. So I might, as a manager, want to make sure that my team has all the support that they need to wrap up this particular deal that we're in negotiation with and make sure that we land the business. So, maybe from here I want to get a little more detail on what exactly these opportunities are. So I click my little list icon, and now it brings up the chart along with a list of the specific opportunities that are involved in that chart. And from here I can go ahead and I can open this opportunity, and I can see all the details within the opportunity form. We'll take a look at that in a little bit, so let's not do that right now. Another example, so let's imagine that, well, it's springtime here in Wisconsin, so potentially maybe one of your sales reps would be willing to venture up here in the Northland. And so I've got a trip coming up in a few weeks, and what I can do is maybe think about adding some additional stops. Maybe I'm coming for a few days, so I'm going to see my accounts, but maybe I want to check into some leads that I've uncovered, or some other potential opportunities to see. So using our territory management function that we've added in this solution, I can go out and I can look at accounts and leads in various fashions. So let's just say I want to look within a radius of an address. So in this case, I want to see accounts and leads. I've got several days, so let's make it within a couple 100 miles. And my starting point is Appleton, Wisconsin, as an example. And let's just see everything that's out there, not the ones that I own. So I click on my show map. And the territory management tool brings me a map of kind of centered in on the Wisconsin area. And looking at my key, I can see, okay, I've got accounts that are currently set up as customers. I've got accounts in my application that are coded as prospects. And here in the blue icons, I've got leads. This little purple icon is kind of where I am as my center point, which is Appleton. And then as I hover over each of these, I can see who that account is, some contact information if I'd want to make a quick call to them. So it's a very useful tool in terms of looking at an area that I might be visiting and kind of planning my trip. And I can even go down here and I can select one of these particular accounts, and I can schedule an appointment right from here in terms of the date and the time and so forth. So we won't do that, but very effective tool for kind of setting that up if you don't have anything in place currently. So just a couple quick examples of dashboards, and there are several more, and as our product matures, there'll be many more of these coming into play that you'll be able to take advantage of. Let's say I'm a report person and I want to take a look at some information in reports. So we've got a number of reports already set up in our manufacturing solution. Let's take a quick look at just a couple of these. So some of these are pretty straightforward. Let's say I just want to know my ranking of accounts. So in our reports, you're typically going to have a couple ways that you can filter. This is, most of you know, is kind of a standard filtering function that you can get within CRM. So if you're using an advanced find or something, you're familiar with that. But in our case, we're gonna skip by that. But we do give you additional filters on most of our reports so that a user can easily grab what they want to look at. So in this case, I'm interested maybe in just based on revenue, how my accounts are ranking. And so this is just a quick at a glance look of my accounts. So here's my number one account in terms of revenue, and then you can see we've got declining percents and our running percent increases as we go along. From here, if I wanted to, I could click on this account name and I could jump into the actual account record in CRM and see more information about them. So that might be a quick thing periodically that you might want to look at if you're a sales rep or a sales manager. But let's look at another example of something I might want to be interested in. What's my opportunity close rate? How's that been running this year? So again, as we open this up, you'll see that you have some initial filtering options, but we'll skip by that, and we'll get into the specific report options that we have. So we've got a start date and an end date, indicating, okay, what time period you want to look at here. And let's say we're just going to look at this year. So I'll put in the beginning of the year, and I'll use the calendar to select today to give me a year to date. And now as I look at my opportunities, I can decide, okay, as opportunities are lost, they may be lost at different stages of the selling process. So I could choose, okay, show me only opportunities that we lost at the negotiation stage, for example, or the develop stage. But in this case, let's just grab them all. And now I have 3 ways that I can group this report quickly and easily. So if I go in and I say, okay, let's group this by department. And department is one of the options that you'll have to configure as part of this solution in CRM. So I'll click View Report, and I'll see a quick summary of my opportunities year to date by department. So I've got a direct sales department, distributor sales department, and an inside sales department. So here's my count of the number that I've won and that I've lost and my ratio. But also I can see the revenue for those opportunities. This is the one revenue, and this is the revenue for all of the opportunities. And the same thing with volume. So a nice at-a-glance report in terms of my opportunity activity. Let's say now I want to look at this in a little more detail. Maybe I want to see this by department and also by account type. So I just change my filters there. And now I'm seeing within direct sales, I've got an account type of a distributor, an end user, a restaurant, or a chain, and so forth. And I see the details for opportunities spelled out at that level of detail. And again, as you can see, I could add a 3rd grouping to that as well. So, example of a nice report that'll give you some quick information about opportunities. Now, the processing of sample orders is one area that we often hear a lot from customers where they kind of lack consistent data, or maybe information is scattered across Excel files, Word documents, Access databases, any number of different sources. And for users or managers, it can be challenging to see exactly what's going on with samples. So we'll show how we handle sample requests in a couple minutes. Let's take a look at a summary report, excuse me, that a manager might choose to review. So we'll click on this sample report. Again, we have the ability to create some initial filtering if we want. But let's go right to the report itself, and we'll use our good old year-to-date criteria. And then again, we've got grouping options here in terms of how we want to look at this information. So let's just say we want to group this by owner. I want to see, the owner of the sample requests. What does that look like? So here I can see in a nice summary kind of the who, what, and where of that sample request, and also the actual items and some literature that we might have sent along with the sample request. So this is things that my fulfillment house or in-house fulfillment would have taken care of. But as a manager, for example, I don't have time to maybe leaf through all kinds of sample requests or something like that. I can kind of just glance through here and see what's going on, in this case by owner, and I could look at this in other groupings as to what's going out, and maybe some of these are of particular interest, or I'm seeing some sort of pattern that I want to investigate later. Okay, so that's our example of another report, or sample report. And then lastly, another thing that we hear a lot from customers is that they want the ability to enter sales calls in CRM as a unique activity, and then sales managers often want to be able to review kind of a summary of those sales calls and use that as the basis for, again, perhaps following up with one of our sales reps, or kind of getting a feel for what's going out in the marketplace. So once again, we've got our option for a date range to look at. So this might be something in terms of sales calls that maybe you look at once a week or maybe once a month, depending on your level of activity. And we can enter sales calls at the lead level and at the account level in CRM. So if I want to restrict it to only leads or only accounts, I can do that. But in this case, let's not. Let's just take everything. And then we can, again, choose a grouping. So maybe I'll want to do this by customer. So now I'll generate my sales call list. And again, you've got a summary of what this call was, what was the date, who made it, what was the account, what subject did we capture for that particular call, and maybe the sales rep recorded some information about volume or whatever that we want to see. But what we're really looking at is, okay, what did we want to accomplish with the sales call? And then, did we learn anything in the call? Is there any sort of a business update that I want to make note of? Or maybe, again, I see some trends, and then I'm interested in what is, if I'm a manager, excuse me, what is my sales rep planning to do about this? And in here, maybe I can offer some assistance and make sure that if it's a particular objection we're dealing with or something, that we can take care of it quickly. Okay, and you saw in the list we've got other reports and dashboards that come with this first version of our manufacturing solution, and certainly more will follow soon. And don't forget that in Dynamics, as many of you know, you have great functions such as advanced finds, and you can create your own reports to get at additional information or look at it in a different fashion anytime that you want to do that. So just at this point, Chad, I just want to check in. Do we have any questions before we kind of roll into the meat of our manufacturing solution?
All right, now let's roll into it, Chuck.
All right, sounds good. Thanks. Okay, again, we won't have time today to cover everything, but I encourage you, if you find this solution of interest, that please let us know, and we can give you a much more in-depth review of the features that are in the manufacturing for CRM solution. So let's start out by looking at leads. So in CRM, leads are typically a company name or maybe an individual that we're aware of and we want to kind of keep track of, but we're not really sure whether they're a potential customer or not, or worthy of our spending time generating an opportunity and so forth. So we need to learn more about them. And one thing I'll point out when you're looking at leads, it's typically good practice to kind of make sure that maybe this lead doesn't exist, but the newer global search function that is in Dynamics allows me to really do a quick glance at where, in this case, ABC might be out there. So in this case, if I was thinking of entering a lead for ABC, maybe I want to do a little more investigation here before I do that, because it's potentially already set up and I don't want to repeat that. But let's assume that we want to go forward and we've kind of set up some information for a lead as an example. Right away, you'll notice that we've used the lead business process flow. And these are some common things that we hear from manufacturing and other types of companies that we'd like to know kind of up front as we're qualifying a lead. So, does what this customer may want to buy from us fit our machine specs? Does it kind of fit the sweet spot of our business? Does it meet our volume, price, or contribution margin requirements? And often you can't answer those in great specific detail, but you kind of get a flavor for that as you talk with the lead and kind of qualify what they do and what their needs are. On the form itself, there's a lot of little features that we won't spend time today going through in detail, but there are things like phone number formatting, so you'll see a consistent look to your phone numbers when they're entered. Things like state and country. If you enter the state, we'll resolve to the correct country for you, and all of that information is preloaded into this particular solution. So a lot of nice opportunities there to kind of standardize your data. Within the lead form, one of the things you're typically interested in is defining what this particular lead might be about and transitioning into an opportunity. So we begin to capture what they might be interested in. So we've added a potential items entity or collection of records, if you will, in CRM. And if I look at one of these, I can see that for this, I can capture different levels of information. In our manufacturing solution, you have the ability to define your products anywhere from 1 level to 5 levels. So in this case, we've used 3 of our levels: classification, brand, and product category. And you'll make this decision as part of your initial setup. And then this information, CRM reflects that in the forms that you see. And the information we're capturing here will then be copied over to an opportunity if we qualify it later. But in this case, I could have entered one or all of these in terms of information. So maybe I just know that they're interested in ale. So I want to capture that on the lead form. And I can build this out as I go through my qualification as needed. Here in the middle, we can see where we can enter sales calls. We saw that summary report earlier. Now let's see how a sales call is really entered. As we open one of these forms, which is really a custom activity in CRM, you'll see that we can enter specific information for the sales call. We saw this on our summary. What's this about? What's the update? When did I make the call? What kind of volume are we talking about? What measurement unit am I talking about here? So kind of the basics of what this call is about, again, so that others that are reading it can understand what was going on. Now, as we scroll down, you'll see that you can even enter expense information for this particular sales call. That's another feature of this solution. You can track expenses, and ultimately you could report on expenses against accounts, with the idea being you kind of help ensure that you spend your money wisely in terms of accounts that are giving you the most business or have the most potential. And you can even record things like excuse me, mileage. You can set general ledger codes for these different categories of expenses, and then you can use that to report by that or send that information to your accounting team. And this is a feature that you can choose to activate or not. Some people have very robust systems in place and won't need this. Others don't have this ability to associate expenses to accounts and will want to turn this feature on. And we'll talk with you about that when we set up the solution with you. All right, so let's go back to our form and we look a little further, and we'll see where we can enter sample requests. Again, we saw a summary of these earlier. Let's kind of take a quick look at the details here. So when I create a new one of these, and this is obviously an existing one, it will pull in things like the shipping address and some of the information from the lead, so I don't need to re-enter any of that information for the sample requests, but it allows me to go in and update this. So if I want to put in a new attention name, or I need to add a street to line, I can go ahead and do that as part of setting this particular sample request up. You can even, if you choose, use this form to track the fulfillment of this sample request. So let's say the sales rep has generated this request. It's been sent to your sample fulfillment area. They could jump into CRM and they could indicate, okay, it went out by, in this case, United States Postal Service. I copy in the tracking number. And then once that is set, we'll go ahead and create a link for you right in the record. So if I click on that, it will open up the tracking information from the United States Postal Service. And you can see that this particular item was delivered out to Fresno, California on the 17th. So a nice feature, again, that you can use to keep track of shipments, or perhaps a customer calls in to one of your sales reps and wants to know where their samples are. If this information is populated, they can follow up right from here. And this works for FedEx, UPS, DHL, and the United States Postal Service currently. All right, further down on the form, you have areas where you can enter sample products, and you can also enter literature that you want to be sent with the samples. And to make it more convenient and quicker for you, you can associate literature to a specific sample item and will automatically add it to this sample request. So in this example, when we select the program for future beers, so this sample of 2018 trial Pilsner, let's go ahead and open that up. This information again defaults in when I create this, but I can choose a particular sample product and then the details will fill in, and I can override these. So if I want to change any of this for this particular sample request, I can do that. But if I look at the sample product itself, if I navigate a little deeper into CRM, you can see that I can identify my sample products. Maybe you've already got a sample ID that you want to continue with in CRM. We can capture that and some color and size, weight information. I can tie this to an existing product in CRM in my product catalog if I want to say that, okay, this is a sample of product 123, for example. And then here's where we can associate data sheets or cell sheets to a particular sample. So in this case, I've said yes, I want to include this, and then it pops up this little grid where I can define one or many pieces of literature or, again, cell sheets that I want to make sure are sent with these samples. So in this case, because I'm giving them advanced samples of something that's coming out in 2018, maybe I want to send them a copy of our confidentiality agreement so that they don't spill the beans on our new Pilsner that's coming out in a few years. So again, a nice way to kind of put it all together for you in terms of samples if you don't have those types of tools available to you, or if you want to keep that information in CRM. All right. If I print on this print sample request, which is a feature we've added to the sample request, it'll come up with a predefined template. And in here, we'll see who we're selling this to, who we're shipping this to, and who they're billing this to. It will default in your logo. You can set this logo up and your address up and so forth by department. So as you saw, we've got 3 departments set up for this demo organization. I could have 3 different logos for those departments, 3 different addresses, 3 different potentially web addresses if I wanted to, and each of these would appear differently depending on what I selected for this sample request. So you can see the information that comes in. Down at the bottom, there's a disclaimer that I've copied in, and again, you can put that disclaimer in at the department level. So each department could have a different disclaimer if they wanted to use that. So a nice convenient form. Again, this might be something you could potentially send to your customer. More likely you would send to your fulfillment area or email it to them and say, hey, we've got a new sample that needs to be fulfilled. And on these, you can set up an approval process if you desire. So for samples, some companies, there's no approval needed. In other companies, someone needs to review and approve each request. We can set that up as part of this and turn it on and off, whether it's needed for samples. All right, let's look at one last item on here that we've termed organization-defined fields. Whoops, I think I scrolled past it. So you'll notice on the form, and you'll see this tab on a lot of different forms in our solution. And in this particular case, we've got 2 fields that have shown up. And what we've done on this is we've gone into the area that we've called organization-defined fields. And this is an area where a designated person or persons in your organization that has the proper security role can go in and manipulate this information. We know that manufacturing companies are different in many ways, and so to try and capture every field and every type of thing that they would want to capture is challenging. And with a managed solution, as you know, you have limited ability to customize things. So we wanted to give you some flexibility at least so that you can define certain information that you need to capture in a particular record type. So in this case, we want to know, are they likely to need more samples and maybe I want to put an estimated value of the samples or something in here, just as examples. And there's options to put in text fields, yes, no fields like this one, currency fields like this one, pick list fields, many things that you can set up, and you can turn these on and off. And the nice thing is you can decide if this is maybe a required field. So I want to make sure that they always put an answer into this estimated value. I can, in my setups in this organization define fields, make that field required. But beyond that, another nice thing that you can do is you can actually do some manipulation with the existing fields on the form. So let's say, for example, in your business, it's important that they always put something in this comments area. You can go to this, again, the designated persons can go to this organization defined fields area, and they can set up to make sure that this comments field is always required. So when I create a new sample request, something has to be put in there. Or maybe let's say, for us, Street 3 really is irrelevant, and I don't really need to show it on the form. I can go into that organization defined field area, and I can say, just hide this particular field, and it won't show up on your version of this form, even though another person using this exact same solution would see that street on their form. Okay, excuse me. So one last thing on the lead form. We've set up the 2-digit and 4-digit NAICS information for you. So you'll be able to choose the sector, so maybe it's wholesale trade, and then from that you'll see a specific list of groups that you can choose from that are related to that. So again, as SIC codes sort of go away and this becomes the standard, you'll have the ability to use this on leads and on accounts. Finally, out of the box, when I qualify a lead in CRM, it's going to create an account, a contact, and an opportunity. We've given you the flexibility to use an other qualify, which means I can just create a contact, or I can just create a contact and an account if I want to do that. Okay, so speaking of contacts, let's take a real quick look at those. Now in the contacts view, you'll see one of the newer features in CRM, which is our hierarchy capabilities. So with hierarchies, you can see relationships between contacts, you can see relationships between accounts, and sort of a parent-child structure. So you can get a visual representation of what that looks like. So in this case, I can see that Susan Burke reports to Ellen, and that Renee reports to Susan. And in some organizations, even at the contact level, it's important to be able to see visually that type of a structure. So hierarchies support that fully and is a great option for you. As we open the contact form, another great feature, which maybe you've used already in CRM, is connections. So as you want to associate maybe a contact to another contact in a different company, or associate a contact to another organization, you can use connections to do that. In this case, we've indicated that Susan is connected to ABC Company, and that was a former employer of hers. You might use this for something like board membership and other types of things like that. On the contact form, we've added a couple of custom areas. One is called Area of Expertise, and the other is called Certifications. And we've had a number of people over the years that have asked us to put in functionality to capture, that a person has obtained certain certifications, or in their industry they have areas of expertise that we want to be aware of as we're working with them. And this can come in real handy when you're looking for the right person to talk to, or maybe you're looking at sending out targeted marketing information. and you want to look for people that have certain certifications or are in the electrical engineering area, for example. So let's look at certifications real quick. If I look at the certification for Susan in this case, I can see one of those that she has is Six Sigma Green Belt certification. So if I open that up, when I created this, I can see that, okay, that's the certification. I can indicate if I want to when it was received, maybe if there's an expiration, and where this certification was received from. These are all optional things, but depending on your business, may be useful to capture. One of the cooler things is if I open this certification itself, and this kind of shows you how this is configured, and it's kind of been our approach as we put the manufacturing solution together to give you the ability to kind of customize how things appear. So in this case, for Six Sigma Green Belt, I can put in a default issuing organization if I want to. In this case, there's many of those that do them, so I may have to specify it individually. But I can check where I want this certification to appear. So for example, a green belt might apply to a contact, could apply to a lead, it could apply to a CRM user even in my organization, but maybe it doesn't apply to accounts, so I won't show it there. That way, when you're looking at grabbing certifications and putting them on for a particular contact or account or a lead, you only see the ones that, in your view, apply to that particular type of a record. So a nice way to filter those things down and makes for an easy setup. Okay, might be a good point again, Chad, to see if we have any questions before we kind of jump into accounts.
You can roll into accounts, Chuck. Doing a good job.
All right, thank you. Okay. So if I look at accounts, again, I can see my little hierarchy icon off to the side. So if I click on that, I'll get a view of the account structure. So I've got my Better Liquor Corporation, an ABC company, and Blue Fine Dining. So I can see it visually here with some contact information, and I can expand this out if I want to. I also see navigation on the left, and if I expand that out, I can see the full cascading level of the structure. Same thing here. If I click the little down arrow, it fills in that Litmore is actually part of the Blue Fine Dining organization. So a handy tool, again, to kind of get a quick visual look at the structure of organizations that you've defined in CRM. So as we look at accounts, we often hear that sales reps want to be able to prep themselves with kind of a 360 view of things before maybe they make a sales call or they go in for a sales visit, and they want to know their account's current status and different information so that when they're talking with the customer themselves, they're not blindsided with anything that's going on that they might not know about, or they can focus in on certain areas that they want to explore during the sales call. So up front, you'll see that we've used the roll-up feature to kind of give you a quick summary of activity for this account and the accounts within the account hierarchy. We just saw that hierarchy a second ago, so you can see in this case for Better Liquor, I've got 2 open opportunities, and the estimated revenue for those is about $18,000, and I've got 3 open cases. But if I include the entire hierarchy, that would be Better Liquor and all of the organizations beneath it, I can see I've got 4 open opportunities, and this is my estimated revenue in cases and so forth. So it gives me a quick view of information that I might want to know or need to know as I talk with this customer. We've introduced the concept of last activity dates and last activity types in our manufacturing solution. So you can define as part of your setup that I want to track certain type of activities for accounts, for example. So anytime a phone call is completed or maybe a task is completed, things like that, record that so that I know when I've had a last activity of that sort with this account. So in this case, I can see for this account, my last activity date was March 13th, but within this account hierarchy, it was more recent at April 9th. I can also see when the last invoice date was for this particular account and for all accounts in this hierarchy. So a quick, nice summary of what's going on. Another option you have is to define out sales territories. Not simply a territory number, as you see 14 here, but if I open this, you'll see you have the ability to build out a sales region, a sales area, and to define members and roles of those members within that territory. Now, this goes beyond the team concept that's inherent in CRM and really gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of defining your sales organization to fit your structure, and then also, of course, using that structure to build out reports and information based off of that. So we tried to set this up so that we can kind of cover most structures that people have in their organizations and correctly identify key members, whether it's an inside salesperson, perhaps outside sales, or even customer service folks. So that's our sales territory function. We've already talked about sales calls. Addresses and things in accounts, phone numbers work pretty much the same. We do have a nice copy function, so if I've got to keep a couple addresses here and I want to start by copying from the first address, I can do that. Little niceties like that, again, as you see a more detailed demo, you'll uncover more of those as you go along. We've tried to make it, as we talked about at the beginning, easy for people to use. Now, I should point out again, and we kind of saw this in the report selections, that in the manufacturing solution, we work off the concept of sold to, shipped to, and billed to accounts. So that means that an account could be used on one opportunity as the sold to account, and that same account could be used on another opportunity as the shipped to account. We've seen this arrangement frequently when we look at how accounts are used in manufacturing settings, and we've tried to emulate that here, even to the point when you import invoices into CRM, Invoice History, you can designate the sold to, shipped to, and billed to, and then as you saw, that gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you view information within CRM. Now, as we scroll down, you'll note that on the account form, we've collapsed many of the tabs. Makes the form shorter, obviously, from a scrolling standpoint, and your sales team or whoever's looking at the account record doesn't always want to see all of these in every situation. So we've added some temporary jump to links down at the bottom so that if I want to go to a particular tab and look at it, I can click on one of these and get there. And I say temporary as Dynamics has changes coming soon that will allow you to make this same type of navigation functionality, and we'll be able to probably remove this in a later release, if you will. Okay, so if I look at, and again, here's your organization defined fields. As I mentioned, you'll see that in a lot of entities in CRM, and you may have some at the account level you want to capture. But if I look at opportunities and cases, I'm really looking at the recent opportunities and recent cases for this particular account. And as always in CRM, I can click on here, and I can jump and look at the actual opportunity record or the actual case record within CRM. We won't do that, but you always have that flexibility from any of our lists. The orders and invoices in CRM, this is information that we would import nightly from your back office systems. We've got predefined templates for that information. All you would need to do is send that to an FTP site, and we'll pick it up and update CRM every day. And this information is locked down in CRM, so users that have permission can see it, but they will not be able to alter that information that's coming from your back office system. And obviously, there's no link back to your back office system as well. One of those kind of nice at a glance features is our brands summary. So if your products are broken down at least to the brand level, and that was the second level in our list, we'll use the invoice information that's imported to show which brands this customer has purchased and when was the date of the last sale. And again, that's based on the invoice information that you would provide. But I can also look at this, if I scroll down, I can see, different items purchased at different days. And this is looking at the situation where this account was the sold to. If I wanted to look at, okay, when this account was the shipped to, what am I seeing? And in this case, I don't see anything. Same thing with a bill to. I can choose this as the bill to. And the other nice feature is that if I want to include my child accounts, I can click on this roll up child invoice records. So now I see the last time that this account or all of its child accounts have ever, based on invoice information, purchased one of these brands. So if I'm a sales rep, again, I can kind of look through here and maybe I see opportunities that, like LV Doug Reserve, for example, maybe that's one of our hot sellers and I want to get them on board with it. So I might look at that. All right, lastly, we'll look at invoice history. Well, quickly, equipment, you can capture equipment names and things for it. And if I look at invoice history, I can get a graphical or a chart representation of invoice history based on volume, based on revenue, based on gross profit. So if I'm with a customer, maybe I kind of turn my laptop or tablet around and I show them this and say, okay, here's where we are from a rolling 12-month standpoint based on volume. Here's where we are on revenue. If I roll over this, I can see the actual values pop up. So a nice way to kind of look at information and from a different perspective. If I scroll down, I can see this information by brand, same type of thing. So a really nice, quick, in the form summary of that information. I used to be in outside sales, and if I had this type of information at my fingertips at that time, that would have been a huge advantage for us, or for me at least. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of our time here, and I've got a couple more things I certainly want to cover. Let's jump over to see our new business information or opportunities in CRM. So if I open up one of our opportunity records, again, you'll see we've got the process flow set up. The stages you see depends on whether this comes from a lead qualification or is a direct opportunity that I enter on an account. But we've put in some of the common information gathering requests that we've seen in terms of fields that we want answers to or information gathered, and this will be expanded over time as we roll out the solution with future releases. You might have noticed up at the top this clone opportunity. This is a nice feature we've added and one that is requested quite often. And what it'll do, not only will it copy the information in this opportunity to a new opportunity, but it gives me the ability to decide for some of the related information, do I want to bring this along or not to the new opportunity? So maybe I don't want potential items to be copied over. I can just click no, and that area will be blank when I create the clone. And the clone will say copy of, and then the existing name after that. And I can even clone closed opportunities. So this can be a big time saver for your sales reps. If I look further down on the opportunity, I can see that sample requests are on here, just as we saw in leads. I do have a new option to add trial requests. So from a sales perspective, I have the ability to go in and initiate a trial request that may go off to, say, an engineering group or the manufacturing group. Now, these vary widely from business to business in terms of requirements. So we've just tried to capture the basics for this to allow a sales rep to initiate that process. We've got a process flow. Again, you can turn on approvals or not, depending on what your requirements are. If someone needs to, say a sales manager needs to approve this trial request before we even send it off to engineering or manufacturing. We gather, a lot of this information will fill in automatically for the sales rep. They can put in information text-wise, saying, okay, this is what I want. This is the specifics of what I need to do. And here again, you might want to use your organization-defined fields to build out additional things that you want the sales rep to capture that's very specific to your business. And again, from here, I have the ability to generate a trial request. So if I click on here, I can see a trial request form that gets generated from the information in that trial request. And then I can, again, send this to someone in my organization, or I can just ensure that I've kind of captured everything in the fashion that I want to. One other quick note, we do allow you to insert an image into the trial request. So this is actually a JPEG that's associated to a particular department. And then this might be something, say, in your process, you print this out. Maybe other people in the organization manually fill this out or look at this information as part of your trial execution process, if you will. So you can put in some of your own information in an image fashion as well. Okay, with opportunities, if I go back to my opportunity quick, we do include the standard product line items feature within Dynamics. So you can, if you've built out your product library in CRM and your price list and so forth, you can use that to capture items at the opportunity level, quantities and so forth. And once it's set up, it's really quick and easy to use, and everything extends out for you automatically in terms of prices and so forth. And again, we can walk through this with you and determine what might work the best for you. And we also use quotes as part of this, so you can generate one or many quotes in the manufacturing solution. But we've kind of simplified the process a bit from kind of the standard structure. So if I look at one of these quotes, again, information copies over from the opportunity, all of my items and so forth come in. We've got a process to approve the quote. If you want to activate that, you've got organization defined fields as always to put in information specific for your company related to quotes. And then if I take a look at the quote, I can look at it in two forms. I can look at it in a draft form. So I throw a draft watermark on here, which means I haven't really activated this quote yet in CRM, but I want to take a look at the information that's in here, make sure I've got things correct. I've got my logo in here, again, depending on what department I'm dealing with. So a nice way to kind of look at things ahead of time, and then we would go ahead and activate the quote from there. So that's the quote function. And the last thing I want to cover is when you close an opportunity, as you may know, you can close it as won or close it as lost. Normally, CRM would require you to close out all of the quotes before you can close the opportunity, but we take care of all of that for you. And when you close an opportunity as won, we'll give you a chance to decide which of those quotes actually won in this particular opportunity. So I can capture that information. I can capture the actual revenue from that quote. And this, again, gives you additional information for reporting and analysis. A lot of customers want to know, how many times am I quoting these guys, and how many quotes am I actually winning from them? Am I just kind of spinning my wheels, if you will, and I need to kind of get off of that with a particular account. So a nice way to capture and report on that information. Okay, in the last minute here, the last topic I want to cover quickly is in our service area, and that relates to cases. So you may be familiar with cases already. This is where you're capturing issues, questions, comments, etc., that can be early indicators of problems or maybe opportunities to solve customer problems with new solutions. So if I open up a case form from my view, again, I'll see my process flow that's in place. So, as part of my research activities, I can use the CRM similar cases feature, and my subject in this case is vintage, so I can see other cases where that information helped resolve that, and I can look at maybe the notes that were put in there. So a nice tool for those that are working on cases to see information from other cases that have been resolved already. And we also allow you to associate cases to invoices or orders. And we talked about importing your invoices and orders from your back office system. Well, you'll import those by line item. And so if I choose a particular invoice or a particular order, and I can search with one of our tools, then from there I can go in and I can grab a particular line item, and I can actually go in and say, okay, this line item is a problem, and I can put in specific, say, complaint comments or good comments or whatever, right down to that particular line level. And I could do that, maybe I've got different things I want to record. But that, again, gives you a real powerful tool from an analysis standpoint to look at complaints down to a product level or maybe particular time periods. You can see how we've broken out products by brands and different things. The opportunities there are kind of endless in terms of getting that information in place. So we're one minute over my limit here, but hopefully this has given you the opportunity to see some of the highlights of our manufacturing solution. And again, there's many more and a lot more detail behind all of this that we'd love to show you. And hopefully we've piqued your interest a bit, and that you'll want to go ahead and see more of a personal demonstration. So before I turn things back to Chad, I just want to extend my thanks for listening to me today, and we look forward to working with you soon. So thanks, and we'll switch back here.
Thanks a lot, Chuck. Really appreciate it. I apologize for running just a couple minutes over. It's probably due to me jabbering too much in the beginning, but like Chuck said, hopefully you enjoyed what you saw. It was just a real high-level overview. I just do want to introduce you to one more person, and that is Mr. Kevin Brown. So if you do want to take a little deep dive, talk about your own challenges and how you're utilizing or not utilizing CRM at your place, talk to Kevin, give him a phone call, shoot him an email. He'd be more than happy to set up a personal demo for you. Just as a reminder, if you did not get any of your questions answered that you put in the panel during the webinar, we'll make sure to follow up with you. And you can expect an email from me with a recording of this demonstration and webinar within the next 24 hours. So with that, I will let you get on with your day. Thank you very much, and look forward to speaking with you soon.